So I would like to welcome you to this talk. Thank you for choosing this session over all the other ones. My name is Hanno, and I'm going to talk to you for the next 15 minutes about a few keyboard layouts and the myths that surround these. A little bit about myself. My name is Hanno. I'm from the Netherlands. I have been a Java software engineer for over 10 years, and I have been touch typing on the Qwerty layout for 19 years now, because I learned to do that when I was 13 years old. I'm working at a company called Info Support. Okay, so the year is 1868, and typewriters actually looked like this. This is an electric printing telegraph, and it was equipped with a piano-like keyboard. The keys were arranged in alphabetical order, so the letters A to N were arranged left to right on the black keys, and on the white keys, the letters O to Z were arranged in right to left order. So this is actually one of the first keyboard layouts that existed. So let's have a closer look at these piano-like keys. To me, this actually looks quite organized. You know, there's no debate on where should each key be, because it's very well ordered, just in alphabetical order. Now, 10 years later, so it's 1878, a typical keyboard looks like this. Now, the middle row still looks kind of logical. You know, you can see the D, F, G, H, J, K, L. That's kind of logical, still a bit alphabetical. But what the flipping hell happened to the rest? I mean, that's insane, right? It's like they covered the wall up in glue, then invited a group of monkeys to the room, and they asked them to throw some random letters at the wall, right? And let's see where the letters would stick to the wall. It's just insane. And the worst thing is, we still use this one on a daily basis. I don't know why we do that. It's insane. Any Formula 1 fans in the room? What would Sebastian Vettel say about this madness? Any thoughts? He would say, I mean, seriously. This is what he says every time he crashes or some other opponent does something stupid. I mean, seriously. This is insane. Now, I'm not sure about you guys. I think it's insane, and Sebastian Vettel also thinks it's insane. But what do you guys think about it? So let's find out for a bit. If I follow this link, I will get to an online voting slide. And if you would like to participate in the vote, you can grab your mobile phone, go to menti.com, and use the code that is listed at the top of the screen. You know, if you want your opinion heard, of course. If you want to refrain from voting, that's also okay. It's a free country, right? So I'll try to join in the fun. What keyboard layout do you use at the moment? I'm guessing I know what the answer is, but let's do the vote anyway. So my vote is Dvorak. No surprise there, right? When I did this slide, I expected lots of Qwerty answers. Cool, my guy or girl. Well done. Good for you, right? 45 Qwerty typists. Not the Dvorak. Welcome to the club. Yeah, this is what I expected. Yeah. So let's do another voting one, because I have a second question to ask you guys. Why are the keys on a Qwerty keyboard arranged in that particular order? Is it to slow down typists? Is it to prevent jams in early typewriters? Maybe it is because the word and the brand name typewriter can be typed on the top row only. This is really possible. You should try it out. Or is it because telegraph operators used alphabetical order for years and proposed the new layout because it was easier for them? Most people think it's to prevent jams. Well, actually, a lot of these answers are false, in fact. Or it's not really, there are no real proofs that it is true. And I would like to talk you through a few of them and see what I could find in my research, because I tried switching to Dvorak and I read some things about the Qwerty layout. And this is what I found in the process. So the first myth, oh, sorry, I need to switch my tab again. Here we go. The first myth, created to slow typists down. Well, actually, this is very questionable, because there were no fast typists at the time. You know, the first touch typist was Frank Edward McGarry. He started developing his touch typing method in 1881, so this is like 8 years after the invention of the QWERTY layout. And this Mr. McGarren could type 79 words per minute, so that's quite fast. I can't get to that speed, but he could. Maybe it was created to slow telegraph operators down. Well, this is also very unlikely because the Morse senders, these were the devices that are attached to your input method, were quite fast. They were almost constantly waiting for new input. In this paper, there's a description about a typewriter demonstration. So it was demonstrated to a potential customer, and the Morse receiver almost begged the operator to please type faster because it was going so slow, and it wasn't really a good demonstration due to the fact that it was very slow. The typing was very slow. The next myth: it was created to prevent jams in early typewriters. Well, this is an example of a typewriter basket in which the letters are already arranged in QWERTY order. And you should notice that, for example, the T and the H are opposite of each other, because TH is a very common combination of letters in the English language. So the myth says that the most common combination of letters were placed as far away from each other as possible to prevent this jamming thing. Now this table is from the paper below, and it lists the most common letter combinations in the English language, which is denoted by the frequency per million words, and the distance on the reel of the letters on the typewriter basket. And TH is a good example because they sit opposite of each other, so the distance is 180 degrees. I'm very amazed by the fact that ER, which is the second most common combination in the English language, they are almost next to each other, just 16 degrees. You can see in the reel here, they are quite close to each other. So I'm not sure why they even did that, why they put it so close together. And the same goes for more of these combinations. So these are quite okay. They are also quite far from each other. But then I and T is also very close to each other. So I wonder if these common combinations were meant to be placed as far as possible from each other. Why are they so close yet in the QWERTY arrangement? Let's zoom out for a bit. This is the story of ENR and why they got switched anyway. This is an example of a typewriter 1873. So this already has some QWERTY signals in place. You know, this is the dot key, and the R key is right here. So these weren't even switched yet. And this switch only happened because of input from the telegraphers. So they found it very. It wasn't very easy for them to use this period key next to the E. They wanted to use the R next to the E, so they could type the ER combination more quickly. Also, the S letter, which is between the A and the D in our modern QWERTY one, was placed between the Z and the E because in the Morse signal, the combination for S and E was the same Morse signal as Z, and it was very hard to distinguish these two. So they wanted the S between the Z and the E to be able to quickly correct it when this was received at the receiving end. So I'm not going to say this myth debunked, but it's questionable for me. The third myth: it was created so that the word typewriter could be typed by using the top row only. Well, this is some sort of a salesman's myth, I guess, because the brand name wasn't actually Typewriter. It was Scholz and Glidden Typewriter in May 1873. So, and of course, we saw in the previous slide that the R key moved to the top row, but the hyphen between type and writer never moved at all. Also, these letters Scholz or Glidden, they don't appear on the top row exclusively. They require multiple rows. And these sales demonstrations weren't even done by just a salesman packing out this typewriter word. They were done by sending and receiving Morse telegraph, which is also in this paper. So I guess this is an old wives' tale about the salesman. So actually, can we conclude that telegraph operators created QWERTY according to their preference? Well, I can't be 100% sure, but in the research that I did, I tend to agree with this one. I've made an overview of all the changes that were made to Qwerty. So in November 1868, the first typewriter existed, and Mr. Scholz was the inventor of this one, and it actually looked like this. So this is the piano arrangement that we saw earlier. After that, in 1870, Mr. Porter, the first customer, asked for numerals and punctuation marks. So there were 10 keys added, and by this time it looked somewhat like this. So still some alphabetical order, but there are numerals and also punctuation marks. Now, a few months later, the second customer was Harrison and also Craig. They asked to do the Q and the W on the upper row and the S between E and Z for the reasons I just mentioned, because these Morse signals are very much alike and they would like to correct it more quickly. Now it looked like this with the dot between the E and the T. And afterwards, the people from Remington, who also were a customer of Scholz, of the inventor, asked to put the I between 8 and 9, because the I was used to type the 1 symbol, because there's no 1 in this, and also no 0. They used the I and the O, and in order to type years more efficiently, like 1800 or 1900, they placed it between the 8 and the 9. Also the 0 or the O here, so that you could do like 1900 very quickly. And finally, the Y was moved to the center of the top row, which was also done by Scholz himself. And this is where we arrived to the Qwerty layout that we all know right now. Well, except for the M, but that change didn't happen until later. So what if you would decide to move the Dvorak? I'm not saying that you should, but I did just because I wanted to learn something fun. Will you be a faster typist? A little bit about the Dvorak simplified keyboard. It was patented by Dr. August Dvorak in 1936, and it was invented to reduce finger motion and typing errors. And it claims to increase your typing speed. More on this later. It also claims to reduce your RSI injuries, so your rapid finger movement issues. Now, this is a keyboard that is well supported on all major operating systems, so that shouldn't keep you at all. Dvorak really intended your fingers to move as little as possible, so he put the most common letters in the English language as much in the home row as possible. So 70% of the letters you're going to need while typing English are in the home row, so you don't need to move your fingers very much. Dr. August Dvorak really hated the bottom row because he thought that your fingers would really start to hurt more often if you use the bottom row very much. So he tried to avoid that. Only very few used letters are on the bottom row. And a few are on the top row. Most letters in Qwerty are on the top row, actually. This is a heat map. This illustrates my point. The red is used the most. The letter E is the most common letter in the English language, and the O also quite a lot. So you can see in this heat map that Dvorak uses mostly the home row, not the top row. So less finger movement there. How did I try to master Dvorak? This is how you should do it, according to me. You should start by memorizing the different locations of the letters and just practice until you can touch type them, so you don't need to look at your keyboard anymore. I use this website. This is a Dutch website where you can just start out very easy and try to do more difficult stuff later on. It's like this. It's very small, sorry. So you can say I'm going to do a lesson, just a home row, or more keys, or the entire alphabet. And you can also map your keyboard, so you don't even have to configure anything in your OS. You can just map your keys to Dvorak if you want. This is a great way to start, I guess. I liked it anyway. Then you need to increase your typing speed, so just type on Dvorak more often. This is what I did. I kept some data on my progress for the last 6 months. I started at the left side of the graph, which was like March this year or something, and I ended in November, where we are now. And this is a list of my speed. The blue bars are Qwerty, so I started around 400 characters Qwerty, because, you know, I have 19 years of typing experience. And I kept practicing Qwerty because I don't want to be, be rendered useless, right, when there's no Dvorak keyboard available. So I tried to practice Qwerty also, and I kept fairly stable. You know, at the end I'm still 400 characters or something. And I started with Dvorak with like 150, and gradually over time I managed to increase it to around 315, 325, which is around 62 words per minute. So I'm quite content with that. I can do my job just fine. You know, when I really need to push for a deadline, I use Qwerty still, but Dvorak is okay for my everyday use. So let's conclude. On the Qwerty layout, it was never really intended to slow down typists, and there's not really much evidence for solving the jamming problem, because the second most common combination is still very close to each other. The layout was, I tend to believe it was optimized for telegrapher users. And on the Dvorak layout, I know from first-hand experience, it is less tiring to use this one extensively. So my fingers hurt a lot less, but I'm very prone to RSI injuries. So that's good for my case. But mastering it will take a lot of time. You saw in the graph, after 6 months of exercising, I'm at like 3/4 of my Qwerty speed. It's not equal yet. So you can't really be sure that Dvorak will make you type any faster, at least not in half a year or so. So I'm going to give it another 6 months and hope I will be at my Qwerty speed level, but I can't be sure. So should you switch? Well, don't switch if your fingers never hurt from typing, because this is the main benefit for me. They don't hurt anymore while using Dvorak. So don't switch if your fingers never hurt on Qwerty. Or if you're not willing to invest a year in mastering Dvorak, if you're not willing to invest this, well, don't switch at all. You know, just stick to your Qwerty or Colmac or whatever you're using right now. And do switch if your fingers are killing you from time to time and you want to give them a little more rest. And also, if you have a year to spare to crank up your Dvorak typing speed, you can also switch. One question, very quickly, because we're running out of time.
Could you elaborate a little bit on having two maps in your mind and switching between them?
Yeah.
Because I'd be scared of doing that.
Yeah.
But over if you saw your graph, you already have probably an answer.
Yeah. So the question is, could you elaborate on having these two maps in your mind, how you just switch from one to another? Well, when I have typed Dvorak all day and then I need to type Qwerty, the first minute I'm a bit lost. Yeah, so this problem happens. But after a minute, I get used to it again, and then it's okay. And also a good tip is, please keep practicing your Qwerty skills. So in my case, I use Dvorak at work, and when I have an hour to spare in the evening, and when I want to do some freestyle programming just for a hobby, I use Qwerty. So like an hour a day Qwerty, and the rest of the time at work Dvorak, and that way it works fine for me. So yeah. If you just can't get enough, the slides are up at SlideShare, and you can also ask me questions on Twitter or via email. And for now, our time is up, so no time for questions right now. Thank you very much for your attention.